Welcome, welcome. I'm Cynthia Harrison, and this is your Monday Intuitive Energy Medicine Power Readings and Mystical Musings. So I just want to see that I have. I just returned from a fleeting trip to America, and I was feeling pretty good, so I thought I'd pop in and say g'day. So, g'day. So if you're watching, say hello. And I really don't have anything planned. So it's again, where will we go? If people want to know about some of the research, we can talk about that. Just excuse me while I get into my seated position. So I'm Cynthia Harrison. For those of you that don't know me, I am a mystic medicine woman, energy medicine practitioner, anthropologist, social worker, social scientist, you name it. Hey, Sandra from Scotland. Woo! Welcome. So I literally just ran downstairs because I didn't have a microphone. So sorry, I'm a couple of minutes late. And Lois, hello. Thank you. Welcome back. I wasn't sure whether I'd make it or not today, but I'm feeling fine other than the moon headache that I have. But I've had it probably for the last, well, it's interesting how many days, because I've lost a day coming back, or have I gained a day? I don't even know what day it is. Well, I know it's Monday because I'm here with you, but other than that, I just go with it. But yeah, I've had this this interesting pain in my head that I usually get when there's particularly different moon phases, and so I'm fairly used to it, but this one's actually at the back of the head, and I do feel like it's related to some work that I was doing over the pond, and that's why I was there. So I was doing a clinical practice with Eden Energy Medicine. It was the last module, and so the tribe got together and you've probably seen some of the pictures. I didn't actually take too many pictures this time, other than with my teachers and one of the ladies I was sharing a room with, but I'm sure that there will be pictures that come up over time, as they do. Good evening, Murray. I was going to say good morning. And Carrie, is it too late for the... Oh, is that your question, Carrie? Is it too late for the hospital to help me? Okay, well, I'm going to say it's never too late for anything. And depending on what your beliefs and conditioning patterns are as to, you know, what too late means. Mm-hmm. So if you follow me, sorry, I'm a bit distracted today. I'm actually, I think it's because I'm playing with these boxes of cards. So I think I'm going to get you to assist me, because usually at the beginning, and I've got some books, usually at the beginning I do a reading or a card. And so I'm just playing with those, and it's my indication that I haven't done that. And you see how the mind, it's telling me, so I'm observing. So we need to gather and give people time to come together. And I'll talk to you, Carrie, in a moment. And just share this so we can get more people on, because there's only actually, I think, 4 people that are here at the moment. So we want to share the love, yeah? And then I will see what we're going to... I was actually using these cards. I always use these cards with my friend Lauren, who introduced me to them, and who I stayed with in San Francisco. And if any of you saw the images a couple of the images that I put up of my QEEG that I had in relation to testing my brainwave patternings and what goes on when I, not when I do readings, but how I control, or I can go into different states or consciousness. So that's really interesting, and I'm still compiling that. I was studying it today, and some of it I still don't understand. However, what Dr. Juan has given me so far is pretty cool, and I will post it when I have all the information and when I understand it and can put it into my words. I have his words and what he's told me, and that's pretty exciting, but it's a little bit of science jargon, so I will discuss that if you're interested in tonight, but I do want to put it into, I suppose, how it relates to, you know, the mystical ways, or what I call the blue ethers, and how I experience the world. So it's basically given me the qualitative and quantitative data to support how I've always said that my brain works a little differently, and hence how I've struggled in lineal processing in school and whatnot, because I have very unusual brainwave patterning, and which assists what I do. However, it's not always been that way, and that's an interesting story. So I hope you can hear me okay. Hello, Fernando. Fernando, where have you been, my dear, dear friend? I was just thinking about you today. I've missed you. So I have numerous things to talk to you about if you are interested. I have many tests that I have done. This is a certificate, and it's got 12 or 13 different tests on it, for all different. So that was through another doctor, Melanie Connor, in Arizona, and then I went to San Francisco and I had the QEEG, which is testing brainwave patterns and in different states of the type of work that I do. So anyway, we're going to do more work because the neuroscientist has said that my brain supports his theory around consciousness and healing, and in particular love. And he said he doesn't have a healer that is that uses the type of access that I do. So that's interesting, and we're going to look further into that, which means it's more about gamma waves, so very high gamma, and apparently I have that at base, and then as I switch levels, it gets more prevalent. So anyway, we've got a few more people. Well, we've got one more. We don't really have that many people on today, so I'm going to have to do the old thing of invite people, yeah? So, and then we'll do a reading, and then we'll get into it, yeah? Because I feel like I'm a bit more settled now. It's just a bit sort of, what am I doing? But I'm settled now. So I'm happy to be back. I've missed you. I know you probably think, oh, yeah, but I have. I've missed you. I'm used to this Monday thing now, and I was hoping that I could catch you all today. So I'm just going to share this, okay? So share to groups. So that one. And have any of you Be careful not to share to the wrong groups because they get angry, don't they? If you share to the wrong groups. Occasionally I share to the wrong groups. I don't mean to, it's just that I do it quickly. Have any of you experienced anything over the last few days in relation to the lunar eclipse, and or anything that you want to share that's happened since I've been away? Oh, Google Translator. You've got Google Translator again. Good. Well, we'll have to have a chat and catch up because lots happened, and I want to see how you've been going after your accident. And well, I know that you're doing okay, but yeah, it'd be nice to catch up. So contact me soon, Fernando, and we can catch up. Perth Spiritual. Oops. All right. So what questions do you have while I'm doing this? What would you like to talk about? Is there anything that you'd like to ask me about what I did while I was away? I did lots of different things. I was in 2 earthquakes. Every time I go somewhere, the weather, it's bizarre. And I have some insight about vortices, and I literally was carrying one around with me. So I'll tell you that story if you're interested as well. So I'm glad that you're here, Fernando. So you must be getting back on track. I saw some of your beautiful poems in the last couple of days. So that shows me that you're back into your creative flow, which makes me happy. So speaking of creative flow, so avatars of the earth, no. Okay, that'll do for now. Oh, you know where I haven't shared it to? I always forget to share it to my actual page, which is bizarre. Okay, so feeling a lot of pressure in my still point. I don't know. I think that might be you, Fernando. It's in the back of my head. It's like a lot of pressure. Anyway, I got my hair up because I've been swimming. It's really hot here today. Okay, so I'm going to post this. And then now I'm with you. Okay, let's go. I'm going to do a Rumi poem. Well, Fernando, if you can translate this, because he speaks Brazilian Portuguese, so he's translating this. Maybe you could post a poem and I can read one of your poems, because he's a wonderful poet and musician and shaman. And but what I'm going to do is pull something from Rumi. Okay. For all that was familiar, I broke away. Now I am lost, without a place, wandering. With no music, like a fool, I dance and clap my hands. How am I to live without you? You are everywhere, but I can't find you. Murray, do you remember this? That's the same poem. It's the same poem from a few weeks ago. Do you remember? I'm saying Murray because I don't think any of the others were on. Do any of you remember that? Hey, Sabine. So extra significance because that poem has come up again. For all that was familiar, I broke away. Now I'm lost without a place, wandering. With no music, like a fool, I dance and clap my hands. How am I to live without you? You are everywhere, but I can't find you. You are everywhere, but I can't find you. Oh, you vaguely felt heart drop. Sweet. That's so deep. That's why I read it a few times. I usually read things a few times and then I will pick out what, you know, so that bit at the end, you are everywhere, but I can't find you. And I feel like that's something that we do, or I've done. I don't do anymore because I've learned how to connect and how to be. And yeah, I suppose that's interesting that, oh, I've got a cascade of emotions there, everything. And so that's good. I'm just feeling into that. It's just interesting that it's come up. And I also noticed that these oracle cards, so these were introduced to me a year ago, so January last year. And see, I don't place much importance on time or those timelines, yeah, or the, you know, the old timelines. So I never know when it was that I was somewhere, and until something comes to show me. So actually, while I was in San Francisco, good old Facebook showed me where I was a year ago, and guess where I was and who I was with? Same person. I was with Lauren, and we were doing our road tripping, I called it. So there's a few little videos that from our road trip where basically we were going to many power spots and grids, and I was doing my work there as a gatekeeper and grid worker. And so it's really interesting that I ended up basically rewalking some of those steps, but in a different way and with a different perspective or viewpoint. And we still had the earthquakes, we still had the bizarre weather. When I had set up, so a bit of a story, I'm going to tell you a story. You know I like stories, and when they come up like this, it's usually got some it's usually because they're connected to somebody or something. So do I just go home to my grandma? So Carrie's asking a few questions. I'm going to get to you in a moment. Fernando said, my heart felt the energy shot quickly. Yeah. I don't know if I want to be in the hospital. They won't help me. Please. Oh, help me, please. Hi, Nicole. Nicole Jane. Oh, that's where I am now. Hello. Yeah. Okay. So I just got to follow the energy. That's what I do. I trust it with every cell of my being. So when I see people asking, I'm aware and I'm watching and I'm observing, but I have to follow where the energy sends me first. And there's method in the madness, and I do not question it. So I'm modeling for you how to trust and feel into that too. So which is the story, and the story of how I met Dr. Juan. And it was a massive big circle of the world, basically, how I met him. And not only did I meet him, and I'm sure he won't mind me saying, but the circumstances that he's going through is quite dramatic, but he doesn't live in fear. And so through a friend of mine who's in Victoria, Melbourne, Australia, who put me in email contact with a lady in Siberia, who then we called, and I had a conversation with her a few weeks ago now, about 2 weeks ago, maybe 2.5 weeks ago. She had literally just touched down in San Francisco from Siberia, and she put me in email contact with Dr. Juan, who is a neuroscientist. I emailed him, or he emailed me, and we started to discuss what types of research I was looking at. And he was very excited to help. And so while I was in Arizona, I was lucky enough, so it's all divine guidance, to have been invited by my dearest friend, who's a shaman and healer herself, Lauren, to come and stay with her. Because, you know, I'm a medicine woman, you know, that's all I do. So my finances aren't, you know, bursting at the seams. So everything that I do has to be aligned, has to be totally aligned, and I feel into it. So even how I'm speaking today and what I'm noticing and not noticing, and what I'm addressing and what I'm allowing some space, and I will come back to. And it's all because when we're aligned, it just, I want to say flow, but I feel like flow is being used in ways that we misinterpret. Oh, I'm getting lots of hearts, so something's hitting hitting the spot. How we flow, but I now add that when I flow and when I align, I do it in directorship. So I do it in a way that I'm not flowing down a river without a paddle, basically. I'm in my rowboat and I'm in complete control of the experiences that I want to have. So I place the intention with no grasping. And I allow the alignment of how the highest nutrients, the highest sustenance of that placement is to come in. And that relates to, some of you may not have heard it, but it's a yogic metaphor, I suppose. I call it milk. So highest sustenance, when you're thirsty, you know, the blood, water, or milk. And so surrendering in alignment with a gentle placement of intent allows you to align and release and allow it to come how and where it needs to. And by doing that, you get the highest experience within that placement. So I hope that I'm giving you enough information to follow me. It's really quite simple. What's difficult, if anything, is the getting your beliefs and conditionings out of the way so that you know with every particle of awareness that this is how it is, this is true. So if any part of you comes in to wobble or fear or grasp or want or need, then you get a lower I was going to say placement, that's not the right word. It's this. You are gifted. You were always gifted. You're always graced. But at what level? Yeah. So Dr. Juan turns up. Not only did he turn up, he came to the house. We had major storms. All the roads were closed. Electricity was off from 3 p.m. to 6:30 a.m. the next day. No electricity. Sirens going off. Chaos in the field. house just by candlelight, and he had come straight from hospital, right? He had come straight from hospital. I won't go into that. Let us just say that he was placed in my field to do this work. And when we were doing this work, he actually said, because I've got a little video of it, but it's by candlelight and you can't really see too much, and I'll post little snippets of it at some point, the ones that are relevant. But he said, when he was watching my, doing the cold data analysis, he said that what was happening was proving his hypothesis. And he's tested many shamans and healers and energy practitioners, and, that's what he does. Neuroshamanism is one of his websites, so you can go and have a look. But he's a neuroscientist and has been doing this for 20 odd years. And I was so thankful that he came into the field, because the other scientists and doctors that could have tested didn't have the understanding of what I was wanting to look at. So when you get an EEG or a QEEG, there's particular information that I wanted to know for myself. And is not necessarily medical, right? So what I wanted to know and look at, he was open to. And we didn't get it all done because obviously we were on battery power. And it was late at night by the time he got there. It was 6 o'clock. He was cold. He was drenched. He was hungry, so we fed him. So we ate and discussed his work and what we wanted. So it was late into the night when we got 3 sessions done, a baseline and 2 what he calls healings, but I don't call them healings because I don't heal as such. What I do, and he was asking me, he was intrigued by the way that I expressed what I was doing, because there were 2 very different readings, or 3 very different readings. And I knew that because I was saying that when I'm accessing different parts of the brain to do different work, when I'm accessing what I call the blue, that's a different brain state. When I'm accessing to do actual energy medicine, that's a different brain state. When I'm accessing what I call the beloved, which is one of the ones we tested, the gamma waves went just berserk, right? So my normal base state is double alpha, which means I have frontal and rear alpha, which is really uncommon apparently, and a lot of gamma, which is the higher frequency brainwaves. So that makes sense to me in those. But then when I'm in meditation, we didn't do in meditation, which would be different readings again because they were different states. So we've decided that we're going to do some distance work. He's at the moment he's in San Francisco and I'm in Australia, so we're going to do some distance healing. So hook up one of a client to the QEEG and see what the client's brain waves show, and we're going to continue to work together because apparently my brain proves the hypothesis about gamma and love, and I won't go into it. I will write about it, and I'll show you the images and whatnot, but how I access love, purity of love. You've heard me talk about purity of love. And when I go there, what shows, whoops, I nearly ended the call. What shows is massive amounts of gamma, and you know, some people do their work via theta and different brainwaves. So mine's mainly alpha. So what it's saying is that I'm highly aware, you know. So even when I'm doing work, I might be in other states of consciousness, but I'm still aware of everything that's happening. It's like I was going to say ultra awareness, but it's highest consciousness. And when I was asked what I was actually doing, because they like to know what, you know, all the different practitioners or shamans or medicine women or whatnot, what they're doing when they're doing their work. And when I explained it, he got very excited because I said I was dancing with the beloved, which I was. And what that means is that I access direct source, the beloved, and I swim in that energy, which is the ocean of love and mercy, the ocean of eternity. Yeah? So what am I doing? I'm not really doing anything but being in that, or R-ing in that field. And how that showed in the brain waves was massive amounts of gamma waves. So my friend said, she said gamma rays. I said, no, gamma rays kill you. Cosmic rays, no. Anyway, so I don't know if that's interesting to you or not, but I'm just mentioning it because some of you know that that's what I was doing over there. And so what else can I tell you about that? What I want to say about that is that okay, so what's coming up is about anxiety, general anxiety disorder. So I'm assuming that some of you might have anxiety. What's interesting about that, thank you for all the love and hearts and thumbs and whatever. I appreciate it. You're really with me today. So what's interesting to me about that is that in the past, and you may have heard me talk about this, that in the past I've had post-traumatic stress and general anxiety disorder. Now what's interesting, so follow this for a moment. What's interesting is that what they're finding is alpha. There's research at the moment. I'm not sure how I feel about it because I've just come across it, right? There's research at the moment of stimulating regions of the brain to produce alpha to assist with anxiety and depression. Now it's interesting that I had those symptoms, you know, way back when, and through my spiritual practice I cured that. And now I have a double alpha peak, which means I have frontal and rear alpha activity in my base state. So not even when I'm accessing anything. And that's interesting to me, and I want to look further into that around, because if we're looking at how to bring more light into, basically into the system. So when we illuminate, when we bring more light into our brain, for instance, it diminishes addictions. And there's some research on that through Dan Winter, and I've talked to him about that too, because he's very interested in addiction or our behaviour, why we do what we do, how we do what we do, why we are how we are, and those sorts of things. It's human condition. So, you know, and how does one, you know, like, I know that my frontal lobe is very active when I'm accessing. So if I start to go into another layer of consciousness while I'm speaking to you, and you'll see it. It all happens at once. Every now and then I'm sort of dancing in these different fields. I can feel it in my head. It's like I know what part's more activated. And it was interesting because I was able to tell the researcher what was going on. So we did get a lot done, even though we were in blackout and storms, and it was pretty intense. But we still got a lot, 3 different sessions done, and quite a few hours of work. And I've got the quantitative data as well, but I could post it, but it's not. There's not many that would really understand it, so I was going to do a bit of a abbreviation of it. So, all right, that's enough of that, I think. Enjoying your energy. Thank you for sharing your knowledge. Thanks, Nicole. It's like knowing you're in a dream when you're in it, kind of. No. Do you mean when I'm in different consciousness, I'm in a dream? No, I never feel like I'm in a dream. Where I feel most in a dream is in a base state, because to me, relative reality is the illusion. So when you start to access, you can see through the illusions of, just what the particles of awareness or the energy, the ether, the plasma, whatever you want to call it, starts to become more solid state. And when you are able to see or shift in how you view that solid state, you see its original form, and there's layers to its original form. So for a human, there are different ways of viewing the different energies, but there's also where occasionally, I don't do it very often because there's no real point to it. Once when you are looking at something and it dissipates and abstracts into original form, which I call particles of awareness, which are pixelations of, I just call them particles. So, I don't want to really go into the science, because there'll be some scientists that will arc up and but anyway, all right. So let me just go back. Hi, Jennifer, how are you? Let me just go back. I want to answer Carrie. Okay, she's asking a few different questions, so I just want to okay. I just want to link into something, and I just want to see whether it's the right time for that to be answered, because I'm not actually feeling different questions. I just want to. Sorry, that's my mobile phone. Okay, I just got the rest of your question, Nicole. I was trying to relate what that must feel like. Okay, I'm gonna talk to that, because I'm still waiting for Carrie. So a connection with Carrie. Okay, so what it feels like. It doesn't feel dreamlike. It feels like there's different states, so depending on what we're talking about. So I'm going to talk about that highest state. where I call it dancing with the beloved. So is that actually, that's what Rumi talks about. So all Rumi's poems are to the beloved, yeah? Let me just see. Just see what else comes up. My friend, I offer you my life. Accept me. Make me drunk and save me from both worlds. Set me on fire if my heart settles on anything but you. Set me on fire if my heart settles on anything but you. That's basically it. There you go. So these are whispers of the beloved. So that's what I'm reading from. So Rumi's poems, love poems, are basically to the beloved. And when you access that love, there is no thing, no one, nothing that compares. And so you never forget that feel. And with practice, with your own practice, you can access at any moment, right? And that's what the brain states show. Right? So people who do their practice can access more easily because of that repetition and practice, yeah. So it's actually more alive than even now in this state where I'm speaking to you and I'm aware. But when I go into that other state, it's like every molecule is alive. And funny that I explain it like that, because what's just come in is that the science was saying that in gamma, it can, how did they word it? I'm paraphrasing. It's about basically activating every cell. And so when you have these other states, your health and wellness is more than, yeah. So if you've heard people talk about, you have less illness and it's not that you don't have ups and downs, it's that joy is a constant state, and the wave of the emotions, human emotions, is just a wave. And so if you're able to be in your state of joy that isn't impacted by the external, then the waves that are coming and going are fleeting, and you know deep within yourself that they're fleeting. So if I have an emotion, I watch it, I feel it deeply, and I allow it to move. The key is feeling it deeply, going into it. Because the deeper you can go into your pain, right? This might sound counterintuitive, but the deeper that you can go into your pain, the more expansive your love and your connection is. Because that's the polarity. So the joy is like sitting in the middle of the magnet, and you've got north and south, or positive and negative, the polarities, light, dark, whatever you want to call it. And the joy for me, I call it joy because it's the neutral, but it's a state, it's not an emotion. And so when I speak of joy or bliss, I'm speaking of it as a way of being, maybe not the right way to express it. The outer edges where the world is spinning around you is the polarity, and you're in all of it. But that center point which gives you the doorway, the gateway to the beloved. Okay. Allows you, once you've been through that door, and remember, death is just a doorway. Birth is a doorway. So your perspective on life and death, birth, death, rebirth, shifts, well, really exponentially once you experience what I'm talking about, what I'm trying to share, which is difficult because they're really trying to match words to something that is ephemeral, really. It's not, it's, so we do our best. And Rumi wrote poetry. I do art because the words don't cut it, yeah? Okay. So it's really an awakened state. So there you go, because I was trying to work out a way of describing it. Being awake, so it's not dreamlike, but when you're getting to the dream, when you're getting to these other states of consciousness, you do go through these dream-like states of, and I've talked about this numerous times, but I don't think I've talked about it recently, so I'm going to bring it up because it's come up, and I think it's come up because of you, Nicole, so thank you on behalf of other people who might need to know this. And I haven't forgot Carrie, it's just, it's not, there's going to be something for you, but it's not, I'm wondering if we need to go here for that deeper understanding of what's going on. So I'm just feeling in to see where we're going. Okay, so where I was going is completely gone. So we're not going there. It's never so. It may come back. But that's the other thing. I don't hold thought in my brain, right? So if it goes, it's gone. Unless it comes back around or somebody reminds me or says where I was going. If I feel it come back in, it will go there. But if it's gone, yeah. And that's how I know where I go. All right, so Carrie, hospital. Okay. So I'm just scrolling back to see some other things because I've got some answers for Carrie, but I'm reluctant to answer these type of questions, as you all know, because I want to get beneath what's really going on there rather than yes or no, prediction type things. It's not how I work. It's not my cup of tea, because I don't feel that it's empowering to do that. So she doesn't know she wants to be. Well, you don't. Well, I know that you don't want to be in the hospital, right? So the question is, I don't know if I want to be in the hospital. They won't help me. That's answering your own question. You don't want to be in hospital. You feel like they won't help you. But where is your mind at the moment? Where's your perspective coming from? Often what we want and what we get, what we think we need, are completely different things. And I see that often when people ask me questions, I give them an answer, like I give them what comes in. It's not what I think. If I told you what I think, it'd probably be a completely different thing, right? Because I don't think I allow it to come through. Often I get people message me afterwards or later through the week and then maybe wanting to know more, or the answer hasn't come directly to what they were asking. And that's because when the intention's out there, it's underneath that the answer comes to. It's not the surface. So often, and you'll notice that the energy of answering those questions, it took quite a long time to come around. And even still, there's not a hard hit on it. It's basically, I'm just scanning that and going, you know, what's going on. So what's being asked, so therefore, what's being asked is the surface. There's a deeper question there, and maybe, and it's possible, usually is the way, that because it's public, it might not be appropriate to ask that question publicly, or we're stuck at a place, or not stuck, but we're at a place where we're viewing our relative reality from the ground floor or the first floor. So our perspective is from those floors. We can only see so far. But if we move up the floors of the building, our perspective changes and we can see further. We can see from a different angle. And that's what the intuitive mind or the neutral mind gives you, the ability to access information from all of the levels of the building. So you have multiple perspectives to be able to make a decision on, to be able to gain insight from. Because our beliefs and conditionings, so this is interesting because I was talking to somebody today, and very, very aware. However, the bias was still there in regards to physical and material world, because that's how we're grown and brought up and taught and nurtured in this physical world, right? I've got no idea where this is going, so I'm just talk and see where it goes, because I'm sitting here. So for Nicole, so I'm sitting here listening to what's coming out of my mouth going, what's she talking about? Sometimes I'm like, I don't know where we're going. It's just coming out, right? Okay, so you know that. Okay, so ego's coming up, and I think it's because it does relate to the physical, right? So if we're, and not just the physical, because yeah, we do need to look after our vehicle, but if our whole belief system is around only the physical vehicle, we are distracted by that, and we're missing the information that's coming with a relationship with the internal self, or the internal selves, or the higher self, or the future self, you know, however you might want to word that. And that's the eternal self. And with the neutral mind, that meditative mind, that magnetic mind, so to speak, you get I suppose what's coming in is just that full access. It's like you're not favoring one over the other. However, you know, you don't believe, you know that the self that you're adorning and, you know, working out and, you know, looking after, you're the caretaker of, yeah, is impermanent. It's impermanent. And when we grasp, Do you remember that I said, okay, so now I know why I told you about the sustenance stuff at the beginning. When we grasp for something, we grasp for our health, or we grasp for our beauty, or we grasp for our intelligence, or we grasp for whatever it is that you're grasping for. You grasp for a lover, you grasp for, I don't know, tell me some of the things that you, when I say grasp, you desire, you're wanting, you're yearning for, you're getting frustrated because you haven't got it yet. So, or contemplate, what are you grasping? What are you desiring with great need? Because that's when you're thirsty and you're demanding water. You'll be given blood, and the payment for blood is more blood. This is the metaphor, but I live by this. I live by this because I see it and I experience it to be truth. Most get to the water part because it's with practice that you can surrender or know, not believe again, know that you will be supported, cared for. So you don't need to ask. You don't need to ask. And that's practice. And I had ways and methods of prompting myself every time I went to ask for something. And I had people around me, especially my youngest daughter. And it gets to the point where you go to ask and place your intention, and then you realize, you want milk, or you want water, or you want blood. Well, I've grasped there. Okay, so I'm going to get the lower nutrients. So blood will keep you alive, but the highest nutrients or the highest sustenance, so to speak, would be the milk. And if you're vegan, it could be almond milk, coconut milk, whatever is the highest sustenance. It's a metaphor, right? It's just something that can keep you in practice until you don't need to practice anymore. And you can just you just are. So R-ing is a whole nother concept which really does fit with, so we've got doing, being, R-ing, and we've got blood, water, milk, and they really do fit within each other. Okay. So they're very advanced teachings. So if it's not making sense, that's okay. You can ask questions, but usually just feel into it. At some level, it will come in because you're here, and this is what I'm talking about. So, I don't think you would be here and I would be talking about it if. So I'm just looking at the questions. Okay. So, okay. So do I just go home to my grandma's? Carrie, I want you to feel in yourself. Practice you being still and go internal and listen, not with your mind. Not with your mind. And you know what I'm going to suggest? That when you've got something that's difficult to work through, get some crayons or pencils, or you could use pens, but I love crayons because they're tactile, and I'm a tactile. I love you know, the feel of crayons and oil pastels and stuff like that. But you don't need to. If you've just got one pen and a piece of paper, that'll do. Write what you want, what your intention is, what your question is. Hey, Teresa, your intention. So this is the first step of intentional creativity, which is all my paintings and workshops on that, to access your own internal guidance system. This is the first step, and it's so simple. I can give you answers, right? But that would mean you have to keep coming back to me for answers. And that's okay. But at some point, you know, my role here, my work here, is to work myself out of a job, which means assisting people to get their own information and to be empowered to the point where their internal guidance system is so on that they don't need to ask from external. Yeah. So grab your pen, grab your paper, write down your intention or your prayer or what you want to know. It may be exactly what you've asked on these questions. So, do I go home to my grandma? So I would say I always start this way because it's ritual, right? It is medicine woman business, right? I'm just thinking if I've got some of these teachings on my Vimeo and YouTube. There probably are way back. I used to do them all the time. But I would say I usually am speaking to the mother. So, Divine Mother, show me what I'm yet to see. Or, you know, rarely I ask of the beloved, yeah? In fact, I don't do any of this anymore. However, I'm giving you tools to be able to get to a state where you can be and then are. So if you're at the doing, great, no judgment. It's just where you are on your evolution. But how and what tools can you use to get you to a point where you can access that internal guidance system internally? And that's one of them. So I would write, you don't even have to remember it, whatever. You just, whatever energy you want to bring in. Mine used to be, it was always Divine Mother. I worked specifically with the Great Mother, right? I dance with the beloved. You don't work with the beloved, right? Different levels of work. So what am I not seeing? Assist me to get clarity on this question, and then name your question or whatever it is. So you're just writing it, and then you get your colors. So you can start with 3 colors, past, present, future, or just 1 color, and you just scribble. You're going to color that in. You're going to do however you want. If you're just starting out and that freaks you out a bit, you're just going to do 3 colors. Don't even think about it. Just grab them from the box. Grab the first one. Do the top third of your paper. Second one, middle third of your paper. Third one, bottom third of your paper, right? Then start to just doodle, just scribble and allow it. It's not about drawing a picture. You can. What you're doing is you're infusing the paper with your energy of that questioning or intention. And by doing that, what happens in the brain, these processes access front, back, top, bottom, left, right of the brain. It's a whole brain process. And I won't go right into it, but I just want to give Carrie something that she can do when she's in these questioning moments. And those types of workings, I haven't got my journals here, but you know, I have so many journals, and that was my process. When I got stuck, I just coloured in, like scribbled, and what came up, and you know, it moves it through because it's accessing the different parts of the brain, not just the one. And you're not being stuck in your bias or the parts of the mind that keep you limited in your field of, you know, let's just say that your perspective, like where you're viewing from. And when you can open that up, and I just call it your internal guidance system, or the muse, right? You've got the muse and the critic. When you can access the muse, that information from the muse, she or he assists you. It is you. It's an aspect of you. But when you're stuck in that real sort of, you know, I was going to say human way of viewing, and that's because there's fear there, and there's that, I don't know what to do. And so your stress response comes on, and then you really don't know what to do because you're in fight, flight, freeze. And when that happens, the blood goes from the prefrontal cortex to the back brain, and you have limited thinking capacity. Yeah. So coming up with, what am I going to do? It limits your perspective. So if you have creative modes, now alpha, funnily enough, alpha brainwaves are creative brainwaves. Okay. So chicken or the egg, yeah? So you have a lot of alpha, which gives you a state that is recalibration. So we know. So for those of you that, so I've got workshops coming up, just to throw in a bit of a plug. So they start in Perth on February, and then we go to New South Wales, Queensland, and then Victoria. And so last week or the week before, I was talking about how alpha, or the Schumann resonance, 7.83 hertz, so 7 to 10 hertz is the recalibration frequency of the brain. So it's interesting that when you have a lot of alpha, there's a lot of creativity. So look at my double wave, front and rear alpha states. I'm a creative. So, I think creatively. I am creative. I move creative. Like everything's creative. So you've got that, but you've also got, as you raise in your frequency on your evolution, your conscious evolution, you become more creative. So those of you that have been on that journey know that you become more creative, because the energy that comes through is, I'm going to say it this way, but bear with me, is sacred sexual energy. But what does that mean? It's creative. What is creation? It's birth. So, of course, when that energy rises, you become more creative. And then at other levels, you become co-creative. So you start to create with others. You collaborate with others. These are higher states. Yeah. And it's much harder to do that, to co-create and collaborate at these other levels, because it's more about your survival, not humanity's survival. So there's these states of awareness and states of development for the human. Again, no judgments, just how it is. It's the evolution, yeah? So, whoa, something's going on. Let me just see, because my head just went a bit. Oh, Nicole, I haven't seen purple star eyes before. That's really cool. Purple star eyes. I love that. Okay, Teresa, good morning, sunshine. Good morning. Nan. Nan, have I spoken to you before? I don't think I have, so welcome. All right. So I know I went off on a tangent because that's how I roll. So, Carrie. So thank you, Carrie, for asking your questions, because how it's taken me on this roller coaster of discussion. It's probably brought up things that other people wanted to know that maybe have nothing to do with your question, but that's how it works. So the people who ask questions are assisting so many others, because there's thousands of people watch the replay, right? So don't let that freak you out. See it as you co-creating with me to assist others, right? So your questions actually are assisting others, people that you will probably never meet, probably never know, all over the world. That's how this works. So, I really. Oh, Murray just picked up a crystal. What crystal, Murray? Why did you just pick up a crystal? Oh, is that what okay. I get what you're saying. You're saying that I felt you pick up a crystal. I'm not sure that I did, but I might have. Something happened. It's usually, yeah, what the intention was of you picking up that crystal. So why did you feel the need to pick up a crystal, Murray? What's going on there? Okay, so any questions or comments or input on what we've discussed so far, or yeah, red jasper. Wow. So you're feeling that you needed to ground. Was I going a bit cosmic? I think Murray's trying to tell me I went a bit cosmic. It's actually I feel extremely here and present and centered and interesting, considering I flew in yesterday. So Murray's saying, yeah, I know, Murray, you love when I go cosmic. You just, yeah, Jennifer's laughing at you too, because we know. Okay, so maybe you're holding that for others, so that's good. All right. I'm still trying to link into Carrie, and it's not coming in like a boom, and I'm not sure why. And maybe that was what was needed to be shared. Let me just see. Let's see. Okay. So I'm just contemplating how to talk about this without talking about people's personal stuff if they've not brought it up. Yeah. So sometimes, you know. So what I'm picking up. Okay, I'm going to work out how to say this. All right, bear with me. So I'm picking up that there is the perception that there is something wrong. So I'm going to put this out there, and I'm not going to say who it's for, because if they want to step forward and comment on it in any way, then great. If not, I'm just going to put it out there because I think a few of you will probably relate to this anyway. Okay, so hey, Stephen, how you doing? Better late than never. Where you been? Okay, so all right, so what was coming in is that I'm just going to say it's to do with mental health, or the perceived mental health, yeah, or a state of being that may be labelled as mental health. Now, there's a lot of those, and often we're going to be careful here. Okay. I would like to suggest or to share a knowing that we can experience the most bizarre and confronting things. Oh, it's 6 a.m. your time. Ah, that's why. So you slept in. So you would have had to get up at 5 a.m. or 4:30 a.m. or something to catch us. All right. Well, I'm glad that you're here. 6 a.m. Stephen, tell me where you're from again while I go back here. See how I'm jumping around? This is not wanting to be addressed, and I'm trying to stay with it, right? But I'm not forcing it, because I don't force anything. But can you see how it's coming around in it's wanting to go off on these other places. So I'm aware of that. Ah, New York. Interesting. Okay. I didn't go through New York this time. Usually I have to go through New York, which is an extra plane trip. But from San Francisco, I can go straight to Sydney, and then from Sydney to Perth. But usually from Arizona, I would go Arizona, New York, Sydney, Perth. Anyway, I'm just treading water while I try to explain what's coming in. Okay, so mental health, or experiences that may be the only real relevant explanation is that there's something very wrong with you, yeah? Now, I know that there are some of you on here, I'm not going to mention any names, that have been through that and have done work, energy work, and realized with real eyes, right, that all of those, I'm not saying for everybody, I'm saying there are some people that are misdiagnosed. What I see, feel, sense, know, smell, taste, hear, all my senses, and what I know of what many people who are diagnosed with particular experiences are very similar. So when I speak to people who are experiencing particular psychosis, delusion, whatnot, I understand it in a way that many may not. Does that mean that I have mental health issues? Maybe. What I know is that how I understand, I'm not going to categorize mental health particularly, I'm just going to talk about it as a generalization, yeah. Is that as we are evolving and as we experience and start to experience different consciousnesses, if our physical and energetic systems are not able to hold the experience, we can spiral into fear. When we raise our frequency, the state that we're in is magnified. So if we happen to be going into a state, we see something, a lot of the paranormal stuff, a lot of the psychedelic stuff is one of the, basically going into that fourth dimension, or the, especially when we're accessing heart. And what we see, feel, sense, know, as we raise in frequency, the veils lift and we start to experience more of what is. So that can, for some people, and believe me, some of the stuff that I've experienced has been literally out of this world, right? Very bizarre. I've been lucky enough to have people along the way that have given me examples of what is possible. And so every time one of those big, let's just say awakenings, or I call it leveling up now, right? When one of those big ones come in, I was prepared. Now, nothing can really fully prepare you. But that's why I do what I do. And when I was teaching conscious evolution, this is what we learned. I shared the experiences, the direct experiences, and your individual trajectory or journey is all individual. But there are particular things that I've seen over many years with my students are common. There might be slight differences, but the core of what's experienced is there's a familiarity. So, and some of you know that have come for energy work with me, and I might say, I might suggest certain things, and I do that because I know the next step that's coming, and it's preparation. So I'm not telling you the ins and outs of things. I mean, you can ask about particular states and whatnot, but I give you like little breadcrumbs on the path, like dotted through. Their signs. So when you see a sign, you go, I can remember Cynthia speaking about that. Okay. Right? Those without the signs and have more of a fear-based, for whatever reason, they might see the sign without any other understanding of it, and they go into fear and spiral into, I suppose, for want of a better word, the shadow, right? And can get a little held there, because the way out is through these higher vibrations. So that's sort of, I know that's not that clear, but I'm just trying to give you like little pieces to sort of seed. So this is what's coming in, okay? So I may not be answering your questions directly, but I feel like there's a lot of this going on. There's a lot of experiences that have your mind, the humanness that you are, going, there's something wrong and I need help. And the only help that you're able to reach out to is particular medicine that may not understand what's actually going on for you. Now, I work with Western medicine and I complement, those. I've worked in those areas. I've worked in mental health. I've been a social worker on a neurological ward. I've been a social worker in a general hospital. I'm a therapist. Counseling mental health and trauma and whatnot in the past. I understand this stuff. But I also understand the other side. And I've just told you my brain works very differently. And how I access information gives me that overlay. So I feel like it's important to say, when you're experiencing something, yes, get it checked out, but also have an awareness that there is more going on for many of you than science can explain. So I just felt that needed to be mentioned. So yeah, how do we build our vessels to be able to hold that information? Through energy work, energy medicine, spiritual practice. Okay. Does it happen overnight? No. Can we make shifts fairly quickly? Yes. Can those shifts be held long term? Well, I'm going to say yes, but it needs to be a new way of being. And how do you make a new way of being? Through creating new habits and patterns of behavior. So, okay, I can see how this fits in now, because what I was talking about earlier was about my friend who is open to the mysterious, but almost has a foot in each world and is still being pulled. And I can remember that place. I used to say it's toggling the world, right? Foot in both. And that is a really difficult place to be. So know that, right? And if you're on your journey, your evolutionary journey, I know some of you, I can see many of you that are on here, have asked me many times, like, what happens if you get off the bus? Like, can you stop? Because there comes a place where the mind gets in the way. And that's where practicing that neutrality, that neutral mind, can assist you to move past. Because if we're going into those polarities and getting caught, there's nothing wrong with going into, it's not, it's neither good nor bad, right? It's about practicing coming in to the center, the neutral mind, not the one that we generally rely on. That mind is the one that is almost like the critic. It's the one that is trying to keep you safe, but it's keeping you safe from things that don't exist, or exist but in another time and place, maybe 20 years ago or 15 years ago, or whenever that was, that time when you experienced something, and then anything that came close to that feeling and that emotion was triggered and reprogrammed, really. so that over the years, now you've got this pattern of behavior and how your brain fires to release particular chemicals and whatnot to give you your state, right? So, not an easy task, reprogramming, but it's possible. I worked in brain development. I taught 10 years ago, I taught about trauma and brain development. Stuff that's still not 100% clear today, you know? Oh, actually, it's probably more than 10 years ago, right? It's the same, it's a similar thing. We can overlay the energy, but we're going, okay, when we're experiencing, we're moving through our conscious evolution and we're experiencing things that we've never seen before, we have never felt before. You know, what's going to happen to your physical being? Take a guess. You're going to go into stress response. And because your brain has nothing to put that experience to, unless it's some weird and, you know, wonderful horror movie that, you know, or paranormal sort of movie about, oh, you know, I'm not even going to go there, right? You're going to go into fear. And a lot of my work is about relanguaging what you're experiencing so that you can get the real, I was going to say lessons or the information, right? Rather than you experiencing something and you're freaking out. And then you think you must have lost your mind because this doesn't make any sense. And who on earth can you talk to about it? Because they're going to lock you up, right? I know. That's why I traveled the world for probably more than half my life, looking for teachers to try and assist me to understand what I was experiencing, yeah? Can't get it in a book. Right? And many of the teachers, they would experience one aspect of it, but other aspects they didn't. So it was about, for me, pulling all the pieces together to understand my personal journey and my experiences, because we're individual, right? Yet there are common doorways and gateways. So you'll have teachers that will get you to particular stages or teach you, show you, share with you aspects that, you know, you might need to learn, and you're open to that person. They come in, however that works. And then you might get to a point where there's other things and you are drawn to another teacher. Okay, so let me read this. In my experience, is that it's scary. So maybe she's seeking help they can't give her. Yeah. Yeah. Or him. Because I'm generalizing here. It's like people ask a question, I get information, but it's not just for one person. It's generally for numerous people, and they'll get information that they need. But yeah. So so when I look around like this, what I'm doing is looking for the strings of information, basically, where what one has not been completed. It's like strings of information. and I'm not picking any of them up. So good opportunity to either ask your questions or comment, or I don't know, share something. Until I see what else comes in. Again, I've got no idea what time we started. What else could I tell you? While I'm waiting, what I could share is something that is a little bit more medical, I suppose, but still to do with energy medicine. So I was doing clinical practice in Arizona last week, and we were doing this protocol that is basically for trauma, and I found it really interesting coming from sensory motor psychotherapy and trauma understanding. And it was moving the head in particular ways, and other things too. But as soon as I saw somebody doing it, I had an aha of, okay, one of my teachers is a trauma specialist, Bessel van der Kolk. He's what I call him, the trauma guru. Anyway, someone else just came into, but I'll stick with Bessel, because he started the first school of yoga for trauma in America. Anyway, there's lots of information on that, but so I'm just going to stop reading the questions for a moment till I say this, because I keep getting distracted. But keep writing, and I'm going to go back in and answer them. But I just want to tell you this for those that might be interested, because I'm finding a lot of people with neck issues, and there are numerous reasons for that. There's not just one. The energy that runs down the neck, triple warmer or triple heater, is related or governs the endocrine system, so the fight, flight, freeze response. That's that. I talk about that a lot. What I want to talk about now is the relationship to how the energy was being moved in an energy medicine protocol, which is more hands-on, touching the body, not pranic healing. This is a different modality. And the knowledge from a trauma background around the research on whiplash. Now, you might be going, what is she talking about? Let me explain. So, a lot of research, and Bessel van der Kolk was one of the ones that talks about this, but there are others that found that the common, when they looked at those that were having very minor car accidents, like in parking lots, and they weren't going very fast, and then coming away with whiplash. The key thread was early childhood trauma, or trauma, but generally early childhood trauma. Okay, so my mind goes, and this is how I'm a pattern maker. So my mind goes. So I've got that information, and then I've got the energy understanding, and then I've got the literal energy understanding of the meridians that govern the endocrine system, and they run down the neck and all of that. How we release. And there's a method, it's in energy medicine, called ancient echoes. And it's not about bringing up the past lives and whatnot, but with that protocol, what happens is there's a release, and it's quite profound, and that's why it's not taught until very advanced stages of practice. But I just find it interesting that you've got the Western medicine and the Eastern medicines, and there's so much correlation. So if only we could come together and share in a deeper way, I think we would have greater health and wellness. But anyway, I'm bridging where I can. So, okay, Nan said, I relate to the world travel for teachers, yeah. Now, you don't necessarily have to physically travel. There are a lot of people that are online. I'm online. I'm talking to you now. Some of you are, other sides of the world. We've got Brazil. We've got America. I think we've got Scotland. We've got, who else is there that I recognize? Rabat, where are you from? Welcome. Rabat, I'm not sure where you're from. And I think the rest are from Australia. Nicole, where are you from, Nicole? I think I've asked you that before. And Teresa. So anyway, point is, you're all from all over the place, and you don't necessarily have to travel. You can travel. The travel that I did was because of the work that I did. I don't need to travel anymore because I hold those states. However, if you do want to have a quickening, travel is a good way to experience and go to those power spots and walk those grids and experience directly those energies. However, if you're in Australia, there's numerous power spots in Australia, and if you're in the US, there's numerous power spots in the US. If you're in Japan, there's numerous. Like every country has power spots and grids. The grid runs over the earth. Where they cross in particular patternings, a vortex, vortices are created, which are the power spots. And so you don't need to travel far. However, if you're from San Francisco, Nicole. I was just there. I work nights and stumble upon you live and thankful. Oh, so you haven't been here before. Well, there you go. Well, I'm here nearly every Monday. So let me do a shout out again. Those of you in Australia. And eventually I'll do, so if people are interested, eventually I will do a live tour of other places, but it's much harder to go to other, it's not hard to go to other countries, but it's hard to do work in other countries. So there needs to be, I suppose, enough call for it to work. However, the power spots, usually I would just meet up with people. It wasn't really formal tours or anything, and there was no payments and whatnot. It was just I would do my work, and if people wanted to come, they could turn up. Often it would be my friend Lauren and I would go to particular power spots and do our work. She's a shaman, I'm a mystic, and we've got different ways of being, and we share our processes, and our energies together seem to bring in quite, well, we impact the weather for a start. That's bizarre, and no one would believe me if I told you. You probably still wouldn't believe me, but it's all documented because it's the weather, right? And we tended to take it around with us. So this time, well, I won't go there. That's for another time. I was going to tell you a story, but so okay, Mary's asked something. So I've been trying to find people who experience the same energy system in my hands that I do. Must be quite rare. Well, I would ask you what is that about? Because what we've spoken of in the past about the energy in your hands has been literally what the meridians are doing. So triple warmer, the pulsing in the hands, and whatnot. And there are layers of energy. So depending on what you're looking at. So you've got beginning and ending points, the meridians. Don't underestimate the meridians because there are particular points that we call the source points. So there's particular points that are the source of that organ and meridian. So you'll have the kidney source point, you'll have the gallbladder source point, the liver source point, and so on. So these particular points are like the power point in a way, or the source of the power of that energy. So, but is it? That's what I'm asking, or stating. Is it? Because unless you understand the depth of the meridians, my hands, describe what my hands are doing. Is that what you're saying? Oh, you're saying Murray. Yeah. Murray's mentioned what his hands are doing in the past, and that's why I brought up the meridians, because those points, I'm not saying they are the source points, because I'm just giving you an example that there are many. There's also the polarity of each finger. So each finger has a different polarity, positive, negative, and neutral, and it's different on each hand. So the polarity, or understanding polarity of the body, hands, toes, front of the body, back of the body, top of the body, bottom of the body, all of that. There's numerous ways. So feeling energy in different fingers. The thumb means joy, little finger truth. Yeah, but Murray, okay. This is what I'm talking about. So yes and no. Remember the polarity. In some systems, that would be correct. In other systems, it will say something very different. So don't get caught up on that. It's one way of body reading. And so I'm going to say this for all of you. When we read the body, there's different levels. We've got the physical body, and there's a book, a really good book, called, it's by Inner Segal. Anyway, it gives you the reading of the body. Anyone know what the book's called? Anyhow, it's pretty good on a energetic, basic body read. Okay. In saying that, there are numerous levels of understanding. Yeah. So that's the basic understanding. So are you getting so I'm talking to Murray's question. Sorry, I'm looking at my phone. So Murray, are you getting the understanding of that through that book? Or is your understanding of what's happening with your hands from something else or from your own knowing? I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm not saying you're right. I'm saying be open to numerous levels of understanding of energies. The different types of energies that exist would blow your mind. Okay. That's the basic read of what's going on. Right? I would be interested to see what your electrics are doing. You may purely just be feeling energy pulsing at positive, negative, and neutral. Okay? Why we put our hands in particular, why I use different fingers for different points, all has meaning. So often, you know, if we're using PowerPoint and electrics, the main electrics at the back of the head and the PowerPoint at the back of the head, sometimes we use the pinky because that's a heart, you know, heart finger. And the electrics of the heart is an electrical field. The middle finger is pericardium or circulation sex, which is pericardium is the sac around the heart, but also it's a fire finger. So the opposite or the partner of triple warmer, which is endocrine system, you know, yeah, like I could go on and on, right? Numerous systems, numerous understandings. And as you get into the higher energy systems, as you consciously evolve, your energy systems shift as well. So you're working on a particular level of where you're at. So let's use a metaphor, see if it works. I haven't used this one before. So you're on the ground floor and let's see if this will work. You're on the ground floor and you're looking out your window and you're not aware that there's a river in the distance because you can't see it. So you're working on the understanding that the land around you is forest, for instance. When you go to the second floor, same thing, but you might see that it's a particular type of forest, or it has alcoves of other trees, or whatever. And then you work your way up and you get to the 5th or 6th floor and you realize that there's a massive waterway, right? And you keep going up and you get to the penthouse and realize that waterway leads to the ocean. And you can see the ocean from the penthouse. So sort of, I don't know if that analogy works, but it's the same sort of thing as your energy bodies and your energy systems. And there are different ways of reading those as you move through. So often I don't talk about higher energy understandings because it won't be relevant. If you're here with me and it's happening, or we're doing distance work and I pick up that your system is at a particular level, I will mention that to you and I'll tell you about it, because it will mean we're doing slightly different work. So Murray's saying it's from the book, it's just how I'm wired. My forearms and hands would feel like they're glowing, like a humming sensation. Let me just get the rest of this question. I'm newish to expanding. Yeah. Okay. So I'm not linked into you. Ah, that's Nicole. Okay. So Nicole. Okay. So I'm answering Nicole. That sounds like um, the magnetic force, right? So a humming sensation or a pulsing, like literally you could feel it when it starts. Like if you get this, so you're saying they're glowing like a humming sensation. So the humming can be electrics, but it feels like for you it's more the magnetic pulse, which is beautiful. There's no problem with that. Yes, it's expanding. You're expanding. When you can, basically all of the spiritual practices are around building your magnetic force, your magnetic field, your plasma. We're plasma, into plasma beings, right? That's all it is. So, yeah. Anyway, Murray, you'll be guided to who you need to tell you what you need. But it doesn't feel like anything beyond what we've talked about. It's energy. It's all energy. So, it's possible. So this is what's just come in, right? It's possible that what I spoke about earlier is what's happening here. It's like you get an answer, but it's not what you want to hear, right? So often we will get an answer, but it's not the answer that we want. So we negate it. And that's okay too. It's no judgment. It's just, I speak my truth. Whatever comes in, comes out, unless it's going to be too personal. And then I'll say it in a way that is more delicate. So I'm not linking into you, Murray. I'm not in your energy. What I'm doing is I'm reading the field. So it's really just a general reading of the field to explain that, if that makes sense to you. I'm not actually reading your hands and what's going on for your hands. I just want you to know, because you haven't asked me to, but I just want you to know that there are numerous things when we read. And I can remember one of my students many, many years ago, because I would talk about when I was teaching how to read the body. I'm not going to teach you the penthouse version if you live on the first and second floor, because that's not going to be helpful. I'll teach you the first and second floor, maybe even the third floor, maybe even the fourth floor. And when you practice that and you're able to do that, then we'll start bringing in the other levels. And that happens pretty quickly, especially nowadays, like when everybody's frequencies sort of more established and whatnot. But then you got to understand that as you raise in frequency, your systems shift and change. And so how you were is no longer. And you actually are moving in different ways. So for instance, how the energy centers in the body shift and change and work from much higher and are fed by much higher energy systems that very few talk about, and you won't find it in a book. A lot of this stuff you won't find in a book. yes, you'll find about meridians and source points and, you know, the general, all of that. But the higher energy systems you will not find in a book. You may find images in ancient texts, but you won't be able to work out what it is and to translate those languages, you see. Some of you will see those energies and be curious about them and maybe ask and get your own information. But these are what's accessed, you know, higher up the building. And when your divine intuition kicks in. So there's different levels of intuition, there's different levels of energy understanding, and you know, so what's happening with any part of your body can be read on numerous levels depending on what perspective, where you're viewing it from, right? And so that can be the bias too, like what modality you come from, what's the primary modality that you're going to be viewing that person through. Okay, you know, you might be trained in numerous modalities, but there'll be one that is probably more your favorite. It might be because you're better at that, or it might be because you're more confident at that. You may not be actually better at it. You might just feel more confident. So how we get our information. Have any of you, this is often another tangent, but has anybody seen Blind Spotting, the movie? Or I think it's called Blind Spotting, Blind Spot. Murray, you see lots of movies. Have you seen Blind Spotting? It's a good movie, and it sort of links to what I'm talking about. You know, the face vase, or the vase, you know, that image where there's two faces, but if you look in a particular way, you see a vase or a vase. You say vase. Yeah, well, I recommend it because I saw it. It's a little bit. It's set in Oakland, USA, and it's about like convicted criminals. It brings in racism and all of that sort of stuff, and even you know, a lot of shooting and stuff like that. But the core of the messages is really interesting and worth viewing, worth seeing. I don't want to give it away, but it's really about how we see and how our bias and how our prejudice influences how we see and how we recall what's even happened when we I don't know how my top keeps moving forward by itself. It's bizarre. But you know, when we recall, you know, we're telling a friend about something that happened, and then somebody else has seen the same thing and they're recalling what's happened, how it's can be very different based on our beliefs and conditioning, right? So those beliefs and conditioning patterns are held in the body. They're held in the back power centers. And, you know, you've got to take into consideration your ways of knowing. And, oh, Murray's saying looks good. Did you just look it up, Murray? I bet you Googled it. It is good. Actually, a friend of mine's husband suggested I watch it because of, you know, we're always questioning, you know, when he and I get together, we're always questioning, because he teaches about this too, but we're both intrigued about why we are the way we are, why we do what we do. And this is a movie that is entertaining, it's confronting, but it also shows many different truths. And if, you know, you're observant, you will see numerous ways of how the world, or how the human being can think or not think. I'll put it like that. Yeah, it's good. It's a yeah. You just watch. You just have to just watch it. It didn't seem like a long movie, but that's probably because it was like you know, you're thinking about it. It's not a thriller or anything. It's just literally this guy's story, and he was on probation. He had 3 days left, and it's about the 3 days and about 5 days of his life, literally, and just what happened and how he gets into these situations and how that's viewed, how he's viewed by others, and, you know, all of that sort of stuff. But it's really profound. So anyway, I recommend it. I'm sort of talking about the same thing. So we're looking at hands, for instance. We're just using Murray as an example, but you could look at anything. Even, you know, the brainwave stuff, right? So I've spoken to the scientists. I was there. I have my own understanding. I have my felt experience of what's happening and my lived experience of what's happening. But then we have the science, the qualitative, quantitative data, and what does that mean? How that's read, and then the brain mapping, you know, all of this information, and I could just take it. So okay, so this is, I could just take it and go, oh yeah, you know, it's this and it's that, and leave it at that. But I'm curious because I want to know more about just what I've said. You know, it's never ending. We keep pushing the boundaries of what we know. And I feel like that's an aspect of why I'm here, to share these different ways of knowing, and then see how the science backs that up. For instance, I've got my little certificate here, right? So it just says test results for energy healing practitioner. So we did. I've posted some of this because for those that are a little bit wanting to know the ins and outs of what this means, because this certificate really doesn't say anything really, right? It's basically just saying, yes, this practitioner has created some sort of impact on all of these instruments, right? So a multimeter, a high frequency meter, an RF field meter, a GDV, which is the gas discharge visualization device, where you put your fingers in and it measures different energetics and whatnot. And then you go off and you shift your energy they give you a couple of minutes to shift your energy. You come back, you do it again, and they give you a picture before and after. And then you go off and you're given a client and you have, I think, 5 to 10 minutes to shift their energy, and then their GDV is tested and it shows whether you tested their field, blah, 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 blah. Body reading is in here. So demonstrate the ability to provide intuitive information to your client, which is body reading. The broadcast frequency counter demonstrates the ability to change midline nerve plexus in the 3 megahertz and 3 gigahertz ranges. So C1 to C7. But the alkalinity, this is cool. The alkalinity. So there's changing the pH, which is literally, you know, they just test whether you change the pH, right, of water. But then you choose whether you want to make the water more acid or more alkaline. So this is cool because I think any of you can probably do this. Well, if you concentrate, right? So you get a glass of water. We had particular or specific measurement devices, but I'm sure that you could do it with, you know, the pH things that you have for your pool and stuff. I'm sure that you could do it like that because, you know, those strips that you put, or even the ones that you test your urine, right? You can, years ago when I was teaching breath work, we used to test the those strips on the tongue for the same reason. You can change the pH of the body through breath work, yeah? Anyway, I digress. This was about total alkalinity. So how you do it, so if you hold the glass, and you're not allowed to breathe into it, you're not allowed to touch it or anything, right? But if you hold the glass and with your intention, you can, what you do for alkalinity is you dial, your intention is dialing it up. I don't even know how to explain that. But what I did was I was moving the wave, like just with my mind really, I was moving the wave in a dial up. So I was changing the pH to a more alkaline state. But if you wanted acid, you would dial it down. So it's pretty cool. Anyway, holding the glass, and you can see the water actually bubbling. It starts to bubble. That's how you know whether there's shift. So you're just holding the glass, and the water inside is like moving, bubbling. Anyway, so I think you could all probably do that if you want to research. Or you could do the breathwork one. So we did, what was that called? It was breathwork I hadn't taught before, and I can't do it in a large public thing because it's I monitor it, right? Because it's advanced breathwork, and it's what I did, and basically that's what I say cured my post-traumatic stress. It was this particular breath work, and it's numerous levels. It's not just one breath, it's numerous levels, and they're in particular sequences, and it's for a particular reason, right? It's like almost like no, I'm not going to say that. All right, so why was I talking about this? I've completely digressed. I brought up that for a reason. Hey, Elizabeth. All right, any questions? I feel like I've been going for a while. I could go forever, actually. I'm quite energized, but is there anything that I've started to speak about that I haven't finished or didn't make sense? Don't be shy. Is there anything that... So please share if this was helpful. And if you know anybody that's in Australia that might want to come to a workshop and actually experience some of the energy directly, and also learn how to pretty much instantly shift your own energy and build your and evolve your energy systems. They can go to rhombushealingarts.com is the website, or Rhombus Healing Arts. This Facebook page has some of the events on there, but yeah, I haven't done these, the subliminal stress workshop. I've never done this brand new information. Actually, that's what I want to tell you. I have even more new ways to impact. No, Nan's saying, is blind spot about fossil fuels? No, it's about pretty much about racism, right? It's about these guys that are friends. They're from different places. You know, you have to watch it. Google it. Blind spotting, it's called, and it's really interesting. I don't want to ruin it. So Nicole's saying, when you're explaining consciousness, are all levels available or gifts? Like, have you experienced mediumship before? Like, have you experienced mediumship before? Have I personally? Spotting, thank you. Okay, yeah, I think it's called blind spotting. Yeah, I think it's called blind spotting too. Okay, so back to Nicole. Yes, so I do that work, but I don't do it publicly anymore. I've learned my lesson purely because, well, not purely. There are a few reasons. If it comes in and it's really strong and it won't let up, then I'll say something, but I'm not doing those readings publicly anymore because there's too much information that's so sensitive that I'm just not doing it that way anymore. We tried it for a while, and but what comes in, how I get it, I get people's past loved ones, and I get how they died, right? I physically get how they died. I'm shown how they died through my body, and it's graphic. And so trying to hold that while trying to hold you and the energy of everybody else who's watching is a task. It can be done, but ethically, I'm not sure that I want to do that. So when I do sessions, private sessions, yes, I do that information. If it comes in and it's related to what's going on for you, then, you know, I can't stop it because it gets louder and louder and louder, right? That's what happens. So I talked about this last week or the week before. So how I get information is often I feel it in my body. So your loved one will show me what's happening for you or for them through me, and I'll feel it. But the thing that's happening in the last probably 5, 6, 7 months is that's arced up because there was a big shift in August. But anyway, that's another story. And that's why there's more physical and energetic disruptions to our systems because of what's happening with the earth and the earth's magnetic field. So that's what the second workshop's about. Subliminal stress, invisible shadow, is about the theory and the practice of that and all of those energies, and some of the different research projects and whatnot that have gone on, but then my direct experience and what I know, my knowings of the magnetics and the magnetosphere, the ionosphere, and all of the different energies of the earth and how they directly impact us. And then we go into how to empower ourselves and get your systems humming and functioning with these new energies coming in, right? So everybody, even when I was in America, we were at in energy medicine clinical practice. Everybody was talking about this, right? It's the shift in the earth and so much more. It's these invisible energies and how they're impacting our health and well-being. Now, not to go into fear, I'm not about that. What I'm about is sharing with you the exact processes, tools, techniques that you can do, and you'll instantly shift that energy, pretty much. If it's chronic, it might take a few more seconds, right? But then to hold that, you need to then continue with those tools until your system has recalibrated and continues to recalibrate, because the earth is doing the same thing. So anyway, that's pretty much what that workshop's about, but it is cutting edge information. And even though I share a lot here publicly, there's a lot of stuff that I haven't shared ever yet. You know, it's coming in, even just what's happened over the last few weeks. So they're tools and techniques that will assist your polarity and your earthing, because I can tell you majority of you won't be earthing at the moment, and there are specific reasons why for each and every one of you. And once you know that, you'll be able to basically every day test yourself, and or not even test yourself, just do the tools, you know, because a lot of this you don't need. We know how to move that energy, we know how to shift that energy. So if you can't test, you can just do the tools. But I will teach you very simple ways of testing and very simple ways of correcting. And no matter what level, I'm telling you, it does not matter what level of consciousness you are, if you're on this planet, you will be impacted by these energies. And the thing is that those of us that know how to recalibrate, right? Remember I said alpha brainwave is a recalibration. Between 7 and 10 hertz is a recalibration. So if I've got double peak front back alpha states, I'm just in recalibration all the time, right? Yeah, we're not all like that, but I'm creative. I have access to this stuff. I can put it in to a, I'm just seeing a question. I can put it into a process that you can do, and I've shared so much of it. So if you're new here, go back to some of the replays and you'll see about polarity, about earthing, about irregular energies. There are reasons why we're having numerous regular energies at this time, and our polarities are flipping and freezing, okay? And so that's what that information's about. And I do talk about it a lot because this is the work that's being, I'm being pushed to get out there. Yeah, so if you're interested in that, I probably will do online at some point, but I feel the need to actually do live and in person, because I feel that, and I know that when you felt it directly, there's something about the human brain that, when you're not quite sure and you see it in front of you, that you're more likely to continue, right? So, live demonstrations, basically. Anyway, so there's that, and then there's the intro to energy medicine, which is the Eden Energy daily routine for the first part, and then we go into other energy understandings. So, so let's see. Have been doing my homework while watching. Good girl. So how are you feel? Well, this might be private. So if it's private, you don't have to answer. But are you feeling more able to earth and hold that? And I hope that makes those of you that are struggling with your earthing or your grounding, I call it earthing because it's about the magnetics. that even the most advanced practitioners are struggling with the same thing, right? But once we understand this, and there's different ways, there's a way to magnetize your water using magnets, and regularly drinking that water. It pretty much shifts your polarity. I was trying it in America. It shifts on other people, shifts your polarity pretty quickly. And if you continually drink that water, you can create new habits, patterns of behavior. So we're in a time now where we really haven't been here before, and our systems. That's why I've talked about conscious evolution, or evolving your systems, evolving the human. We're going into these other ways, and we're going to feel very different things going on. So going back to a question earlier about, or a comment earlier about mental health and whatnot, or how you're feeling and what's going on, whether that's emotional, psychological, physical, energetic. There's so much going on that you may never have felt before. Now, some of it, I won't say all of it, some of it we know, right? Some of what we know. Sandra, okay. Let me just, I'm just checking. I'm checking something. Okay. Yeah, okay. Maybe we'll talk privately about that at some point, rather than going into it now. Now you realize that we just had the eclipse as well. So there's a build-up, depends on where you sit. Some people have a build-up, some people have a build-down. So some people it hits beforehand, some at the time, and some on the way down. You've got to know your pattern. I know that I get these particular, these vague sort of headaches or compression as we build into it. I call it a build-up. It's like the storm. It's like positive and negative ions, right? So, something to keep in mind with, how you sort of flow with the energies of the earth. So sleep patterns will change, right? Because the tides and the water levels will change. We are a massive, the possums are fighting. If you can hear the possums. So the water within us shifts and changes, like the tides of the earth, and that creates pressure in the head as well, or can for some people, right? Some people don't notice at all. Some people get really, really full-on headaches, and some people get just these dull aches, or can't sleep, or all sorts of things. So so I'm just scrolling. Okay. All right. Well, I might finish on a card. I'm feeling like we should probably wrap up. Otherwise, I'll still be sitting here in the morning having a chat. And I'm sure I've got other work that I probably need to be doing. I'm going to get those videos and that information out. But yeah, if you know anybody in Australia that might be interested in coming to a live class and or workshop, experiential workshop, theory and practice, but I'm more about hands-on, because when you start to feel energy and feel the shifts in another or in yourself, that's where it really you start having your like aha moments and your light bulb moments where you go, this isn't all like it's there's a lot of science to it. Goes beyond science too, but science will eventually catch up. Okay. All right, so I'm going to do a card and just see what comes up. Time. How timely that we have time. So this is a really dark image, but let me see. I haven't had this one before. Okay. Oh, you're joking. All right. It's time, and it's called the doorway. So this always happens. I was talking about death as a doorway, birth as a doorway. Yeah. Anyway, time is a doorway. So it's number 14. And I don't know if you can see that. Can you see that? Sorry. My hands are all scraped up from traveling and whatnot. So I'm just trying to find the page because the card is black and it's really hard to read. So I'm going to read from the book. Okay. Time, the doorway. It's west and it's black. So find where you can see it nicely. It's too much reflection, isn't it? Okay. What about that? Okay. Life can be a medley of delight. When the painting of your path begins to fray within your own lodge of thought, shift your mind's eye to that of the placid sea. See the brilliant path of silver moonlight that comes across the water to bring you home safely. Let the clarity of light fill you with radiant colors as you surround yourself with the protection of the ancestors. This is the time of your becoming. What wonders do you dream for yourself? What wonders do you dream for yourself? So the spirit of the card is, the symbology is Native American, but the truths are universal. So ritual and ceremony allow us to travel spiritually through the doorways between one world and the next. So according to Australian Aboriginal belief, before history, there was dream time. When humans began marking time, we began traveling between the eternities, between linear time, day to day, and absolute time, the universal clock. The shaman of our psyche resides at the door of our subconscious, bringing the space between dream time and earthly time. Contrary to what we think, the future is behind us, and we are moving towards the dream time of our past. Just as a plant grows, moving towards becoming the seed again. How's that? Ooh, orange butterflies. Yes, Jennifer, orange butterflies. Yeah, it's a cool card. So that last bit, contrary to what we think, the future is behind us, and we are moving towards the dream time of our past, just as a plant grows, moving towards the seed again. So that's that eternal self. So I don't know if you were with us for the whole thing, but literally I was talking about all of that at the beginning. And the cards and the readings, it's no accident. That's how things work, right? So when you can see, right, you'll see the connection of everything. So it's really just allowing it all to come in and show you. So the reading at the beginning, whatever we spoke about during, and the card at the end, it all weaves together. So rather than going, oh, does it? Right? Does it? Question mark? Right? It's no question mark. It does. Full stop. So I'll leave you with that. So these are the Sacred Vision Oracle cards. So that's the deck if you wanted to know. Pretty much I don't use a lot of decks. I've got two here, the Raven cards, and this one, and the Archetypes, Caroline Meese. But this deck I had as a social worker because I worked a lot with children, so I used a lot of cards, and that was one of the decks. So occasionally I use these, but this is the deck I usually use on Mondays. So there wasn't there. I think there was only one question, and that was from about the hospital, and I got a no on that, right? So I'm just going to say I got a no on that. But you already knew. So Carrie, you already knew. You already knew the answer. So it's neither here nor there what I say. You already knew. So go into that, and what you're asking, they won't help me. They may be helping you in a way that you're not able to see yet. So be open to the assistance that's coming in that surrender, that the possibility is that, it's only a possibility, that the help that you're receiving is exactly what you need, even though it may not be the help that you want, right? So just hold that and contemplate it. I'm not saying it is, I'm saying it's another way of looking at the same thing. What I'm suggesting is that you make the placement of your inquiry, of your question, on a piece of paper, pencil, paper, or crayon paper, whatever you've got. I use crayons because I like the textural side of it. To move a looping thought or a looping idea, such as, I'm not saying this is, but it's just an example of somebody's not helping you. That might be a loop. That might be something that's been showing you all through your life, and it's in this loop, right? To break that loop, or to slow it down, to stop it, in fact, is that creative process. There is research on it, and I have done it for years. I've used it for adults, for children, for myself, for people who come to access their own guidance system through creativity. There is research on using colouring in to break that looped thought. So it's usually colouring in of a image, so like in a colouring in book. So you could draw an image and then colour it in, or get a colouring in book or mandalas or whatever, it doesn't even matter, and just start colouring in. It changes the brain states. It stops the looping of those thoughts that just drive you. It's like you can't get out of that loop. So it works if you do it. The other way that I said earlier was to write down your intention, your inquiry, your question, what you're wanting to be shown, and then just start colouring in, however you want. Often I just have a packet of pencils and I'll grab them, do scribble, grab another colour, scribble, and I'll just have all this coloured scribble. And it's like when you've got all of that out, often you don't even know what you asked. So if you want to remember, take a photo of what you asked that you wrote, because you won't remember later on, because you're in a different state. So try those. I'm sure on my Vimeo I have a process that's like I've demonstrated it, but anyway, you can have a look if you're interested. All right, I'm going to finish up now. I'm going to have some dinner. Thanks for popping in. Sandalwood, mace or sandalwood anointing. So I'm just looking at some of the comments that I've missed. Diane, how you doing? You're coming in just at the end, sister. Okay. Nicole, okay, I've got a question. Oh, okay, right, right at the end, you just slip it in, okay. That I've given up on trying to see. Maybe you can tap into subjectively. Will my sister Kelsey ever move on from the toxic relationship husband? And hopefully soon before the kids are dead. Okay. Great question. Problem is, ethically, you're asking a question about somebody else, and I don't have their permission to go into their energy. I would say the same for you, whether it's a family member or not. I'm very strict with this. We can't just willy-nilly be going into other people's energy. It's none of our business, okay, unless they ask. So, Nicole, I'm not having a go at you. I'm just using that question to raise, the ethics of this. I don't want you going into my energy, any of you, without my permission, and I'm doing the same. I will not go into your energy unless I'm asked. I will not, even if my family is struggling, unless they ask me, I don't. It's none of my business until they ask, and vice versa. So what goes on for a family member until they show when I say ask, they don't necessarily have to come up and say, will you help me? It can be a bit more subtle than that, but yeah, I'm wondering whether that's why you're not able to see, is because maybe you don't have the permission, right? Often in energy as well, we can ask for permission verbally to the body, to the person, and they'll say yes, we'll give permission, but then we go in the energy, and the actual energy is blocking. The energy needs to be related to or with, and I've spoken about this before too, because it's something that I won't say spend a lot of time on, but it's so important. And sharing how to with other practitioners, for instance, that have trouble reading another person or their energy, even if they have permission, is because underneath that, the subtle energies are in a place where they feel threatened and they're not going to allow change. So it's about building relationship with those subtle energies as well. And I know that some of you will be sort of giggling about this because you've experienced it with me, where I'm I'm literally speaking out loud. I'm not actually speaking to you as such. I'm speaking to the energies of your energy bodies, right? So, you know, because the language is different, and you might say yes, but they might say no, and vice versa. So I know that sounds a bit bizarre, but it's what happens. And if there's not an understanding of that, you won't be able to get to the core of your issues. And without getting to the core of your issues, your symptoms will keep coming up to try to assist you to know what you need to do. So, I see. I've recently detached from her. It hurts to help and watch. Yeah, that's probably why she may have even blocked you out, right? So, you know how I talked about, I'm going to say this, I talked about milk. Were you here, Nicole, when I spoke about the metaphor of milk, water, and blood? So if you're grasping, if you're really wanting something desperately, that's grasping. And you're not going to, the energy of that is not going to reciprocate at the level that you're wanting, let's say. So, okay, so yeah, so you were here. So that milk metaphor goes for everything, okay? And I just got confirmation of that. I just got some harmonics on that. So that milk metaphor goes to all of these types of things too. It's not just what, so you might have been thinking I was talking about money and stuff, but you grasping for the change in somebody else's relationship is still you wanting, right? Still you like really wanting. So how do you do that in a more subtle way without putting the energy, because you're feeding, I'm using you as an example, Nicole, so don't take it too personally, because it could be any of you. When we give something energy, we can feed it. So be careful what you feed. Do you remember the card? It said about the future is in the past, and we're working our way back to the seed, or something like that, paraphrasing. So yeah, cool. Okay, so you feel where I'm going with this, yeah. So allow the letting go of what's going on there, and know that when what needs to happen will happen, and it may not be in the way that you personally would like it, but it's not your decision. It's not your life. It's not your lesson. And it is hard to watch things going on, and you assist where you're wanted and needed. But forcing or grasping into another person's experience or journey is not, it's not our business, as much as that might hurt. And I know I'm a mother, like my girls are adults. I'm a grandmother. I have 3 grandkids, right? I've seen stuff go down in their lives. The thing is reminding that and understanding the journey. And I suppose some may not, and it's okay, some may not be able to get to the point that I'm about to say, and some, it might even make them angry, and that's okay too. And some might go, yes, and that's okay too, right? that my practice and what I'm here to do for this aspect of soul is to practice dying, to die well, right? So it's very different to what a lot of other people are here to do, and to assist others. So it goes back to that seed. We're going back to seed, and the seed holds the hologram of all that you are, right? Do you know that a hologram, a plate, a holographic plate, glass plate that has the information of, say, the tree, and that is smashed, and you pick up one slither of that glass and put the laser through it, it projects the whole totality of the tree. So a fractal piece contains the whole. So we're fractals, or what I call the source, and the spark thrown forward, fractalized out. Going off track a bit. I'm not quite sure where I'm going, but I'm just following the I'm like, whoa, where are we going? But it's like the doorway. Look, I can say this because I've had near-death experiences, right? I've had spiritual death, and I've had near-death experiences physically, and been in coma and whatnot. So I feel like I have that experience to add to my knowing, right? So I'm not saying you have to believe me, and I'm not saying, I'm just sharing experience, right? Direct experience. Death is a doorway. Birth is a doorway. When we go into that center piece, that neutral mind, there's no birth or death. You're eternal. So what's born and what dies is that physical aspect, or the personality, so to speak, right? So when we can really get that, it's not that people don't matter, or their suffering doesn't matter, and all of that. I'm not saying that. I'm saying when you can experience that neutral mind, you ride the waves of the positive, negative, the polarities. Yeah, you ride the waves. you see the many perspectives of the one thing, rather than it be, holy crap, this is going down, and this is where it looks like it's going, right? Because it may not be going there at all. And if we're feeding that, maybe we're perpetuating it to go that way. Because you know what? I'm going to finish on this, because I could go on forever, because I feel very energized. Jet lag, what's that? See, energy medicine. There's no need to experience jet lag, right? Okay, what did I just say before I went off on that tangent? I was about to wrap that up, and it's completely gone. So if anybody knows what I said. So Nicole's saying, my soul connection needs to incense dark with her and us for my path. I think there's some spellos in that, Nicole. So because it doesn't quite make sense. Let me see if I can feel what you mean. My soul connection makes complete sense. I've only briefly thought that this is why we've become distant. Yeah. Yes. So when somebody is feeling, for instance, I'm not saying this is her, I'm giving an example. I used to work in domestic violence. I used to work in everything, right? But as a social worker, we would do our rounds in different areas and whatnot. I would work with, I worked in trauma. Well, domestic violence is trauma. Like ongoing domestic violence traumatizes everybody involved. Why do people stay in relationships that are so difficult? Now, everybody in that person's world is going to be judging them for staying, and if they leave, they'll be judged for leaving. Okay? It's just how it is. No matter what they do, they're going to be judged because that's what humans do. Sorry to say, but it's true. Until we start to raise in our frequency to be able to see all the perspectives, the judgment is there. So if that person is feeling extra pressure from a loved one, they can distance. Because no matter what she does, she may feel no matter what she does. So she might be distancing, or he might be distancing. I don't know, because I'm not going into their energy. It's not my business. What you've asked me is my business because you've asked me, but their relationship is not my business. So Nicole's saying, like our relationship with each other needs to distance for my own health and mind and spiritual journey. Yes, possibly. Sometimes there's the other side where we're trying to support somebody and they're not ready to hear, or they're hearing but they don't agree and they're not going to do what you would like them to do, right? So there's numerous other ways of looking at it too. And so if that's triggering something within us that makes it difficult for us, so a constriction for us, which creates discomfort. We don't like to feel discomfort, so we remove ourselves from what it is that creates the discomfort most of the time. Or if there's no discomfort yet, it's like challenging yourself, which I do all the time. I recommend it. Stretch yourself and challenge yourself. If you're comfortable, get into discomfort, because that's where your growth experiences are. Okay. So I'm just looking at what I just said. So there is numerous levels of what I just said. So some of it is a little bit contradictory. That's because it's different levels of understanding, right? But basically, you will remove yourself because of the discomfort, or she will remove herself because of the discomfort, or you're both doing it, right? There's lots of different perspectives. And so that's why I'm talking about blind spotting. Go and watch the movie. It's got nothing to do with this, relationships as such. It's got to do with how we view and how our bias, or what we want or what we need, impacts how we are with other people in the world. And it's more discomfort to remove. Okay. Yeah. So maybe it's about, if you want that relationship to be different, maybe it's, you could let her know how you feel and not tell her what to do. Are you able to be there and support just by holding space, like just by being love for her, and not do? Remember, doing, being, aring. We want to do and do and do, and we want to save and change and create. But maybe she just needs you to be there as her sister. She just needs you to be her sister. And refer her, you know, if you want to help her, refer her to somebody, like friends of mine in the past, because I was a counsellor, they would come to me for their problems all the time. And it's okay to a point, but it wasn't a balanced relationship. And that can often make you feel that, you know, you're being used up, right? So what I would do would get to a point and I would refer them. I would literally say, here's a number of somebody I recommend that you go and see, right? Because if you're too close, you can't see clear. Can't see as clear. So okay, so Nicole's saying she knows, asks, and I've done literally everything other than distance. So if you feel that you need to do it for you, Nicole, then do it. Then have that distance. But do it in love, not in fear. That's I would recommend, to do it in love rather than in fear. So if you do it, so when we make these sorts of decisions, we can often have resentment to the other. Do it purely for you. Don't do it because she's making you do it. Or, do you get what I mean? I'm using her as an example, but this is a general, you know, don't be stuck in frustration, resentment, anger, you know, all those murky. Do it for the love of you and allow the rest to go. And when you're ready, come back to her in love. So regardless, and it's, you know, I'm saying it like it's easy peasy. It's not, right? It's a practice. Yeah, might be some codependency there too, yeah. But try. No, don't try. There's no such thing as try. You either do or you don't. Give it a go. Look at what you need and not about your trigger, right? Look at, when I'm saying need, like that deep soul aspect. And yeah, not about, so that's an interesting comment about your need to help her. So feeding your need to help her, that's codependency. So there may be a little bit of that if that's been going on, you know, if that's your relationship between the two of you. But coming back to you and filling your needs, because when you have fulfilled, I was going to say the whole, but what happens in relationships, all different relationships, is we're getting something from that person generally, something that we need or feel we need. And when we can give ourselves that, we don't need that person to fulfill that role anymore. And that might sound like, oh, they're going to leave. They might leave. But often what can happen is that that relationship becomes even. It becomes even, so that you're not wanting something from that person to fill your needs or vice versa. And that's a conscious relationship, conscious relating. And yes, it is an advanced state of being, right? But you can start working on that. We all can start working on that, yeah? It's just identifying, why am I triggered, or why am I drawn to that person? I said that to somebody today. Got a text from somebody, and I'm straight up. I just say how it is, because I can, if they're in my field and coming to me, I will feel what that's about. and I'll name it, or I'll help them to name it. So why are you texting me? Why are you keep coming to me? You can, by the way. But the question is why you feel the need to. And, as a client or in a session, that's different. So I suppose the practice is becoming complete. Now, it's not easy. This is the practice, right? This is your journey. Becoming complete, pulling all the pieces of yourself together. That's why we call it remembering. We're remembering the dismembered parts of the self, bringing it all together, becoming whole or complete, whatever that might mean to you. And then we come to the other as complete. They don't need to fill us. We don't have any holes. We don't have any triggers as such. And that's the journey. It's a journey. So this is an opportunity. What a beautiful gift, really. Like, you think about this, Nicole. So yeah, it's upside down and back to front. But you think about what I just said, and then look at the gift that you're given to practice that. Like, that's a gift. Because remember at the beginning, you might not have been around, but at the beginning I was talking about pain and going into the pain. And if you go into that wave of pain, emotional, physical, whatever, that actually allows you to love at a much deeper level because of the polarity. Right? So, well, I thank you, Nicole, for bringing up the question. It was right at the end and I nearly missed it, but I know that your question has probably helped a lot of people, or will, when they look at the replay. So I think we've been going 3 hours. Gee, okay. So I probably need to wrap up. So I'll just read these last messages. I needed this. Yep, heard that part. And that's exactly when I took notes. Good. Yeah, good. Well, that's what we're here for. So I'm glad you asked your question, because, that's what this is about, trying to share. And it's not about me knowing everything and saying you must listen. It's about just sharing direct experience, my direct experience, and then, clients and students. And some of that might ring a bell or feel in alignment with you. And if not, then don't pick it up. It's perfectly okay. It's not about anybody being better or worse. It's about the journey and where you are on the journey and how we navigate the maze of that journey. It's a maze. It's a labyrinth. And sometimes when we're a little bit dazed, we can get stuck in, going around the same part of the maze. And we're like, we just need somebody to say, hey, just turn left instead of right at this section. And there you go. You're out the other end of the maze. You might go into the next maze, but, so if we can try to, no, don't try. If we practice not judging ourselves, then that will spill out to the non-judgment of others, right? Goes back to blind spotting. You gotta watch that movie, I tell you. If you watch it, let me know what you thought. You might think it's complete and utter rubbish, and that's fine too, right? Because it's about perspective, right? And you'll understand once you've watched the movie. I think I think you will. And it's not in your face either. It's these subtle lessons, but that's what life's about. So if you do watch it, let me know. Send me a message and let me know. If you want to come to a workshop and you're in Australia, look on the website because there's all the Australian dates and whatnot. If there's something not there or you can't find it, message me and I'll try and help you out. The Perth one's coming up very soon, so if you're interested in that, get onto it quickly. It's the 9th and 10th of February in South Perth, and love to see you there. If not, it's a couple of dates in New South Wales and Queensland and Victoria. And then I come back to Perth and we do another workshop, which is Create Om. I'm not sure whether I'll take that around Australia or not because there's more resourcing that I need for that because it's more creative. So anyway, we'll see where I go from there. But until then, I'm going to say it's not on Netflix. Oh, isn't it? So I saw it on the plane. You sure it's not on Netflix? Maybe. I wonder what else it's on. I'll ask my friend because it was on her TV, but I'm not sure whether it was Netflix or some other thing. So I'll have to ask her. What a shame. All right. If I find out, I'll post and let you know. Yeah. Maybe I think it's fairly new. I don't know. But you know another movie that I watched that I loved? The Greatest Showman. Has anyone seen that? I loved it. Oh my God. But, you know, there was a little bit of eye candy in there too. So, you know, but again, really good lessons and real subtle story in there beyond the obvious. So I don't think that's on 2018. Have you seen it, Murray? the Greatest Showman? I think Hugh Jackman is the Greatest Showman. I loved him in Les Mis as well. I've seen that. He's great. Didn't so much like who's the other guy? The Australian? Anyway, he wasn't so great. But yeah. What else did I watch that was good? So I usually only watch movies when I'm flying. Eye candy, better watch it. Well, there's Hugh Jackman and then there's the guy from High School Musicals. What's his name? Anyway, it's very sweet. All right, I'll leave it on that note. See, you've got a little bit of, like those two movies are complete different ends of the spectrum, but yeah, Zac Efron. Look at you go, Murray. You know all of them. But the two females are really good too, singers. Anyway, I loved it. It's rare that I love a movie. Very rare, in fact. But I really liked that movie. It just hit a lot of things, like really quite deep teachings in there. But you know, they sort of have to sit for a while and resonate. But and I maybe because I love the circus. I used to go to the circus, all the different circuses, even as an adult. I loved the circus. So there's something about magic and all of those different people coming together. So that's a big part of that movie. Anyway, all right. Love yous and leave you. Please share and maybe like up the top. So if people see that people like it, up the top, they're more likely to watch. If you didn't get anything out of it, don't worry. I'm not sure whether I said anything that's helpful or not. If you think that I did, share it, even though it's a big one. 3 hours, I think this is the longest that I've gone. But I wasn't here last week, so I'm catching up. All right. If you want a session, just to leave on this note, I'm around, well, once I start traveling, which will be sort of mid-February, I can do distance work, but I won't be able to do in person. So if you want in person, you've got a little bit of time. If you want an online session or reading, then message or go to robertshealingarts.com and contact me through there, and we'll see what we can do. All right. Mwah. Catch you all later. Let me know if you watch any of those movies, what you thought. Okay. I'm just going to scroll down. See you all. Bye.